They just made a fascist country out of the United States. We are a republic. We are a democratic republic. And I know that sounds, the definitions are a little weird there. But yes, we elect our people, as any republic, to vote in our stead, rather than everyone in America voting on every issue. So yes, we have a republic, and those people that we elect to vote for us need to know that this is our number one issue. If they don't want to support it, find another job.
You know, if we were doing things for the good of the American people, we wouldn't be occupying foreign countries. We wouldn't have troops in 100 countries. This is all about this new world order, which is one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers, and the bankers fund both sides of war. How do they lose? How can they lose if they are funding both sides? They don't care who wins, and they don't care how many people die. They don't care.
How can I disagree with that? Some president in the past came up with a real good catchphrase that said, war on drugs. And every president since then has been stuck with this war on drugs. And here we are funding both sides. Here we are using the drugs in this country, buying them from the cartels or whoever, and at the same time, we're fighting the cartels that we're funding. And you can't win a war when you're funding both sides. So who's making the profit here?
If you choose to use a drug that's illegal, you are instantly made into a criminal, and at any time they could come pick you up and put you in a work camp, and suddenly we've got slave labor. I mean, how do you think all these people, hear about the slave labor over in China? Oh, that's bad. That's a communist country, you know. They're producing slave labor. Well, you're buying all their products, and the same thing is happening in America with these corporate farms. I mean, we've got corporate farms. These aren't prisons anymore. These are private prisons, and they get paid $50,000 per person that you got in there. You know, if you gave the prisoner $50,000 a year, he wouldn't have to be a criminal. He wouldn't have to rob. And if you got out of his business and let him smoke his joint or snort his coke or do whatever he wanted to in the privacy of his own home, then we wouldn't be laying out all of this money for police, for jails, for prisons, and building prisons with slave labor. Now that seems to be common sense, but you've got these people all going, "Oh, well, you want to help the criminals. You want to help the criminals. You're backing the criminals. You want to smoke pot. Come on. Isn't that what's happening here?"
That's exactly what's happening here. You have criminals in D.C. right now. You have elected people that some people think a lot of and speak a lot of, very highly of, and they're a criminal. And I'll give you the best case example that I gave on the last hour, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
A lady named Jamie Lee. Senator Al Franken put amendment to the defense appropriation that said that no contractor is going to get any government funding that they don't have civil rights, instituted. Now here's Miss Jamie Lee Jones, a young, beautiful woman from Texas, and she's pretty good at a computer hacking. So she's good at computers. She's a patriot, so she wants to be involved to make some difference. So she's a subcontractor with what they call KBR, and with subcontractor from Halliburton. So they take her to Iraq and they put her in a green zone, and she's staying in a barracks with a couple of hundred other guys who are contractors. So she complains first that there's some sexual harassment going on, as guys do what guys do in any military barracks when there isn't any women around. So Who cares what you're wearing when you get out of the shower? But regardless, she reported it and nothing was done. So they knock on her door one night. They have this drink for her. They say, "We know that you've been upset and we want to make amends." And she takes a couple of sips of that drink and it's a date rape drug. She's out, and when she wakes up the next morning, she wakes up in bed next to a guy naked. She's naked, and she had been gang raped. So she reports it to KBR. What do? They lock her up in a storage container for like 24 hours until she could get released. No food, no water, just a regular storage container like you see loaded on a ship. I'm an ex-Marine, so I'll call it a boat. So next thing you know, she was able to get the sympathy of a guard who let her use the cell phone. And she called father, who got in touch with the representative, who got in touch with the State Department, and she was rescued. And she tried to enforce her civil rights. She tried to get some justice. But what did the corporations do? They used the courts like they've always used the courts. They tried to run her out of money. And it went all the way through circuit court. The next step after that is the Supreme Court. So they're at the circuit court, and she's been winning her case all along. And now she is able to get her civil rights enforced. When I write the letter, how come of Senator Kyle and Senator McCain, our two senators from Arizona, did not support having civil rights required of our government contractors when we require that from our own soldiers. On the military code of justice, we require that from them to be able to work with females. But a rape, he'd be thrown in jail. So I get an answer back from Kyle saying, "Oh, this is just lawyer tactics, so that they will clog up the system." Oh, come on. If someone was gang raped, don't you think the appropriate place for it to be is in the system? Don't you think the attorney should be dwelling on issues to enforce that woman's civil rights? And then the answer I got from John McCain was, these people cannot operate like that. They cannot operate following civil rights. Well, blow me away. These are people who just support gang rape. So yes, there's corporations involved. Are corporations influencing our elected officials? The answer is an absolute yes.
Now somebody was
How do we
talking.
get the word out?
Somebody was talking about Red China. We got Walmarts here. You know, I said I would say Red China is as much a part of the New World Order as the U.S. is. We're not enemies because the U.S. is communist also. I've got the whole Communist Manifesto right here before me, or the 10 planks, and every one of them is intact in America today, especially the thing with central bank and government control of communications and transportation and government corporate farms, government control of agriculture. Oh yeah, and heavy progressive income tax to pay for it all. You know, the whole thing about the free trade thing. If we had if we were just trading with people and charging a tariff, our government's form of legitimate form of income is tariffs. Now, if we let everybody produce whatever they wanted to overseas, we got a billion-dollar market in drugs here. People want to smoke marijuana. They want to do their cocaine, you know, at their parties. So let Peru produce it. Let the people buy it at a reasonable cost, without going to jail, without funding this whole prison system. I mean that happened in Russia. That's what happened in China. This is how they murdered millions and millions and millions of people, and they did it under the guise of